Well, the Ontario 2011 provincial election is over. And as many expected, we now have a Liberal minority government. Unfortunately for Dalton McGuinty and the rest of the Liberals, they were one seat away from having a majority government. Which means, at least hopefully with the Conservatives as the official opposition, hopefully they can try to work with the NDP somehow to at least slow down the Liberals from their killing everything human life needs. But then again, there's always the fallacy of relying on a Conservative not to kill the things human life needs. But I honestly was surprised that Dalton McGuinty managed to hang on to his office because, let's face it, the entire province hates the guy, and for very good reasons. But I think the fact that he still maintains a victory, even a minority victory, certainly does say something. I mean, despite everything the man's done to destroy basically everything, he's still got a win. And the fact that the voters genuinely either really dislike Tim Hudak, who really is disliked, particularly in his own riding in Fort Erie, which is pretty bad. I mean, I don't know if he won his own riding, he probably did. But no, the man is generally despised, not only in Fort Erie, but throughout the Niagara region. But, and I say that because I live in the Niagara region. The NDP did make some gains. The Conservatives made some gains as well. The NDP did. The NDP did not do as good as I was thinking that they would. They didn't get to 25% of the vote, which I was hoping that they could at least get that, but they didn't. Unfortunately for me, there were no actual Marxists on the candidate on the ballot. It was either the Conservative Party, the Liberal Party, the NDP, the Green Party, or the Libertarian Party. So I had to vote NDP, even though I didn't want to. Would have rather have voted for a Marxist candidate, but whatever. So I ended up voting for the NDP, and hope you enjoy what support I gave you, NDP. Now, this election was strange in that it was not strange. Nothing of any real significance happened. There is no, defining moment for this election. There's no memorable quotes that came out or memorable things that happened. It was pretty boring, to be perfectly honest. And I mean, Canadian politics in general is pretty boring, but I mean, this was boring even for us. The only memorable things I could possibly think of that actually happened were the Ontario Teachers Federation. Normally they back a candidate, which can change depending on who it is that they're going for. However, this time they didn't. At least where I was, the Niagara Catholic Teachers Association, they had a website, speakforkids.ca or something like that, and they listed all these things that they wanted for children. And I scoured that website, and I found no trace of any kind of push towards one party or another. I mean, it was completely nonpartisan and just pushed for what it is that they wanted to push for, the class sizes, funding, whatnot, and which really needed to be done because education took a serious pounding under Dalton McGuinty. But I mean, I could not find any kind of bias or any kind of push towards one candidate or another, which is very unusual because unions don't do that. Unions are usually they're very openly towards one candidate or another, and obviously usually the NDP in Ontario for obvious reasons. But no, it was different this time, and the one thing that I really do remember from this election is the debate between the three different candidates. The woman, it was a videotape of a woman, she said, a record number of college and university students are coming out of post-secondary education in Ontario and not being able to find work in their field, the one that they want. And a lot of them are ending up taking minimum wage jobs, part-time, not even in the field that they want, and a lot of them are having to go to America to find work. I said, how would you change that situation in Ontario for our youth? And I mean, the leaders just frigged the whole thing right up. Tim Hudak comes on, he goes, well, first off, I understand how hard it is for students coming out of college. Yeah, pretend you didn't come from a privileged position. Yeah, I'm sure you did. And then says, I've got this 5-point plan to make things better for students, ... without bothering to explain what that 5-point plan is. Hey, maybe we'll get to know now that they're official opposition. And then Dalton McGuinty comes up, and he's like, well, first off, I understand how hard it is for students coming out, blah, 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 yeah, right. And he comes out saying, well, what I plan to do is make education more affordable by cutting blah, blah, blah fees or blah, blah, blah taxes to make it easier for our students. I'm thinking, nobody asked you about the price of education. They asked about being able to find jobs in that field once they left. I mean, he completely dodged the question. Tim Hudak said that there was some kind of a plan. Dalton McGuinty didn't even answer the question, and the NDP, didn't even really give an answer either, because I think at that point they would pretty much have to just admit that as premier of the province that they don't really have that much control over the economy. To create jobs, there's only two things they can do. Socialize a service or give tax breaks and benefits to people starting businesses. In other words, give tax breaks to people starting businesses, pretty much. They're not going to socialize anything. The NDP might, but in this climate, I sincerely doubt that they really would. So they pretty much all just avoided saying, we're actually going to give free money to people who already have money. Hey, move your call center to here and we'll give you X amount of tax break. Oh, we don't have enough money coming in, so let's cut the money even more to, in other words, just give to the rich who pretty much already have. None of them gave a real option out of the recession because, well, basically they don't have any real control over it. And again, they have to stop short of actually admitting that. I think another aspect or another result of this being such a boring election, the voter turnout this year was 47% less than it was in the last election, and kind of not really surprised. I mean, voter turnouts are getting smaller and smaller, and, well, quite frankly, more and more people are waking up to the fact that the elections are complete fraud to begin with. If it doesn't matter who you vote for, then why vote? I mean, rather than making the leap in consciousness that maybe there's something wrong with the system, they just sit there and give up, which is too bad, because maybe some class consciousness might be, really helpful. And yeah, there was one more thing. The Toronto Sun, which is always good for a laugh because of their overly melodramatic way of doing everything, in sensationalizing things that can be absolutely meaningless. Like when the ruling class was really, really pushing to cut services, cut everything, privatize everything. On the cover of the Toronto Sun, there was a TTC worker who was sleeping. That's the most important thing that happened in the entire world, was a single TTC worker sleeping. That's the best. We were in the middle of the Arab Spring, and that's the most important thing that you could possibly put forward. I would call that pathetic, but I know that had an agenda behind it, to bash unions. Oh, look at those people who still have living standards left. We should kill those. God, sometimes they're really, really transparent. But aside from their sensationalism, this is what they felt was a good reaction to another McGuinty government. Although another McGuinty government isn't good, this is what they decided. Welcome to hell. I mean, come on, that's childish. It's just outright childish. That's not even journalism. My disappointment towards the Sun, which shouldn't be disappointment, it should be expectation. The election really didn't achieve much of anything. I mean, maybe this will be a lot harder for Dalton McGuinty to do all the ruling class stuff that he does, but I mean, Conservatives aren't any different, and the NDP don't have any power to stop anything. So I'm guessing pretty much in Ontario for the next 4 years, nothing's going to change. That's it.